Go live in 10. Right. 2, 1. Let's do this. Welcome to Lisa's Changing Perceptions with Lisa Efflandt. Lisa is the creator of Changing Perceptions. Through life experience, she has discovered that we all suffer internal wounds that guide us. We live in a society that puts a label and expectation on everything and everyone. So many are in constant battle with themselves, never winning the war or ever feeling good enough. Lisa's Changing Perceptions is a show that offers tools and guidance that will assist you in discovering you and unlocking the chains of pain that bind you. Today, living through the heart, with the heart, from the heart, somewhere. Some part of the heart.
To do with the heart.
It was all good up until I forgot, and it's part 2. You would think I would have that. Good morning. How are you?
Exposing our true professionalism.
Yeah. And the streak goes on.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. Welcome. You can reach me at lisaschangingperceptions.com, Lisa's Changing Perceptions at Gmail. You can text or call 262-573-7055, or you can always reach me through 216thenet.com, and Kent will be sure to get me any messages that you have. And that also includes questions. If you have a question that you'd like addressed on the air, I will refrain from using specific names. If I really want something directed to somebody, I might use initials, but I will refrain from using names. I do understand that it's a personal thing oftentimes. So feel free to throw in questions to either me or to Kent, and we'll be happy to answer them on the air. Absolutely.
And, of course, Lisa's Changing Perceptions brought to you through the financial support of our good friends at Natural Therapy Wellness Center, www.mchenrymassage.com, 815-385-8190.
You almost forgot that. Yeah. Almost forgot the name of the show.
And if you're listening, and we sound a little weird, both Lisa and I have new glasses.
I know. I was just thinking, I was going to say, okay, so, and Ken got them too, because we were laughing about this morning. Yeah. So we have new glasses, and they're progressive lenses.
Yeah.
And those of you who don't know what that means, it means that we don't want to show how old we are by having bifocals. That's right. So the lens changes as it goes down. And you have to have them right at the right spot on your nose. And if you move and the glasses move, then everything blurs up. Or if you're kind of, well, that's kind of really distant, but that thing's not quite as distant, then you have to adjust. So if you see me doing this, just for the record, Kent is doing the same thing behind the screen, trying to see the screen and figure out what it is. Yeah, I was driving this morning. I'm like, okay, no, because I could see the radio. Okay, it's too far. I could see the radio. No, they got to go up and down.
Yeah.
So we're adjusting. So if we seem that we're a little twitchy this morning, it's really just that we're trying to see clearly. I should have made you be on screen, too, because now I look like the only ridiculous one.
Or it looks like we're banging our heads to some music. It's just we can't see.
We're rocking it out.
That's it.
Wait, I'm trying to get him in the right spot. Hold on. So, yes, if we seem weird this morning, that's why. Above and beyond the normal weird and the professional intro, we got that going.
That's right. So living from the heart.
From the heart.
Part 2.
And next week, Julie will be with us. Yep. And we'll still do Living from the Heart, but it'll be
Grace-filled.
Living in Grace, right? Living with Grace. Julie will be with us from Colorado. Everybody loves Julie, and she loves coming on. She's so excited. And then next month, Julie will be back, because she's going to come and try and come in once a month. And next month, we're also going to have a doctor on with me.
Next year.
Well, yeah, that's true. Next year as well, 2022, January 2022. We're going to have there's a doctor friend of mine who's a psychologist,
cool.
Who's retired now, and we went to dinner the other night just to catch up, and he was asking about the show, and I was like, why don't you come on with me? And he's like, I'd like that. So, we're going to get the perspective from a doctor in psychology. We have really interesting conversations because we learn different techniques, different things. But he worked in the prison systems and juvenile systems for the majority of his career. And so we have really interesting conversations about the perspectives of the child's mind and where it came from. And he's a really neat guy. So he's going to come on in January and
that's awesome. And of course, coming up in 2022, maybe the first quarter too, you're going to be putting together.
I didn't know if we were going to announce it.
Yeah, you got to throw that carrot out there, right? you got to tease him, right?
So Kent and I spent some time here last week after the show, a few hours.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's been bothering me is that I am well aware that sometimes getting help in many areas, including our glasses, we were talking about even how expensive they were, is costly. And, things are different right now and people need help. And it's always bothered me. And that's why I'm trying to do groups and things so that I can make it more cost effective. Yeah. And Kent came up actually. Well, I've been talking to Pete to Pete truly, but for doing it for about a year. But I hemmed and hawed and there wasn't a lot of time in truth. And so then Kent and I were talking and we decided we're going to, and I'm going to say we, because Kent's doing this as a joint venture with me, kind of. Starting next year, I'm hoping end of January-ish.
Yep.
We're going to be offering, and it'll be on 216 the Net website, correct?
Yep.
You will be able to I'm going to do mini sessions, mini self-guided sessions, and they're going to be anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes long, depending on what they are and what we're covering. I don't want to cut anybody short kind of thing. And we're going to be offering them at an incredibly reasonable price because you'll be able to download them and do self-guided things at home. So, because in the office, I don't touch anybody. I mean, there is a couple techniques where you do a stress arm thing and stuff that I'll say, can I touch your arm? But for the most part, 80% of it, I don't touch anybody. It's talking, it's guided, it's calming, it's teaching. So, and just like on the air, it's teaching, it's talking. So we decided that we're going to have a zillion. I don't know how many we're going to have.
And there will be a disclaimer, right? These are not to be listened to while you're driving.
Yes.
Please.
Although some of them you can. Some of them you can just chill. It's just breathe. We'll do breathing ones while you're driving because we want you to breathe while you're driving. Yeah. But we're going to be offering those, and they'll be at a very reasonable price. I don't know what that will be exactly, but our goal is to keep them under $15 each. So that is exciting. I'm excited about it.
To help you change your perception.
Right, and it's some people can't make it into the office.
Right.
I have some clients that are only phone, and that's fine if that's what makes you more comfortable. And really, what difference is that other than the back and forth kind of thing? But the guided part, the putting you under, the relaxation, the imagery, the different things that we do. Those are things that you can do for yourself. So we're going to have several different topics. Like I said, we'll have more details then, but I didn't know if we were going to. I was meant to ask you when we came in if we were going to throw that out there. I am very, very, very excited.
I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a neat series and just a great way to help the hundreds of thousands of listeners around the world that you touch every week. So
I'm giddy.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I'm giddy about it.
Yeah.
It's something that I've thought about doing for, like I said, a year or two, but it just kind of faded back over there. And when you brought it up, and I was like,
I'm excited. It's going to be cool. It's
so
going to be really cool.
Be looking for that. And again, we're going to try and keep them at a very reasonable. I plan on having some that are as low as $9.99.
Yep.
And I'd like to try to keep them under 15, and maybe even do some bundles where you can get 3 for 25 kind of thing or something. So we're gonna find a way to make it any less expensive and very affordable, and you'll get to do your own time, your own pace, and your own comfort zone. Different types of things, and they'll be titled. So
having a stressful day at the office, just listen to it at the office for 10 minutes or so, or 15, depending on what it is, and refocus, change that perception, and finish the day.
What a great thing to do on a lunch hour,
huge,
okay, before I go back for the rest of the day,
awesome.
I focus,
Absolutely.
wake up in the morning.
Yep.
So we're going to do that, and it'll be something that you download, and it's not going to be a one-time listen. You're going to have it. You can just listen to it all the time. So very excited about that. So today we're doing session 2 of Living from the Heart.
Yep.
And it's funny because people, I am very blessed, and I've always said this, I am very blessed to have the friends in my life that I have. And they all have different aspects of my life and the person that I am with them kind of thing and what they allow me to be. But I have a few friends that we go really deep into this stuff. And they're kind of like me where they like to delve into their own BS and swim around in the muck for a while and see what they can clean up. And I was talking to them about what I was doing. And they said, well, what does that mean? And I thought, well, what a great question. It didn't even dawn on me to think, well, Shouldn't you explain what living from the heart means, or what you're referring to? And it was funny because it kind of caught me off guard, and I had to think about it. So I thought you'd be a good person actually to have this conversation with. For me, the definition was living for what your truth is and living for what you genuinely feel,
Yep.
even when it sucks, even when it's hard, but you know it's right. To me, that's what living from the heart means, is that you're following that truth, that pull, that guidance. And I think people get disillusioned that that means that everything will always be bliss. No. But everything will always have meaning.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes when we do something difficult or that causes us heartache, it shows us a part of us. It shows us that aspect of us that says, okay, why do I feel that way? What did it go? Where did it go to? And sometimes it's one of the largest avoidances of one of the biggest things that I treat in the office: guilt and regret.
Well,
and people come in because they have guilt and regret. Why do we have guilt and regret? Well, first off, because hindsight's 20/20. And we tend to judge our past selves on our current knowing.
yeah.
That's always an interesting thing, and we'll get into some details with that, but that's an interesting thing. But if you live from your heart and say somebody doesn't reciprocate, and because people always also think that that means romantic love, and it's not just romantic love. Living from your heart is the day-to-day person of who you are. You know, are you a good person? Do you have integrity? Do you have truth? I was just having a conversation with my mom the other day because I was having a day. And everybody I ran into was just nasty. And I'm like, I'm not peopling anymore today. I'm done peopling today. I can't people today. And I was just so angry. And my mom's, what is so frustrating? I said, mean what you say what you mean.
Yeah.
Period.
Words have meaning.
Yes.
They do, people. Oh.
And when you say or commit to something, mean it.
Yeah.
That is what builds character and integrity. And people were so nasty. and I was really, I'm done peopling. I can't people anymore. Yeah. And it's funny because people who don't know me would probably be like, well, that's not very nice. You're supposed to be understanding that people have a bad day. Well, I am understanding that people have a bad day, but I'm also understanding that they're triggering the hell out of me and I can't take anymore.
Yeah.
To me, that's part of living from the heart. Is my truth is I do care, but I'm at a breaking point. And my breaking point means I need to go shut down. For me, when that happens, I go shut down either in the woods. Our weather isn't really so accommodating right now. So it's even in my home, in my room. I always make sure that my bedroom is very home, very zen. And just shut down, quiet down. And I go inward, and then I build back out slowly.
Just a quick good morning to Denise and
Denise.
Donna. Thanks for joining
Hi,
the
Mom.
show. And what I'm writing down, right? Because I take notes on all these shows because I think it's wonderful and learn so much. And what I'm hearing you say is that living from the heart is actually to live listening
to your heart.
Right? Listening to what makes us feel good,
right.
Vitalized, energized, rejuvenated. And when you live from the heart, you put yourself out there to have those days.
And when we're a little softer, we can get poked a little bit more. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's okay to say, I can't take it. It's okay to say I need a break.
Yeah.
It's okay to say I need to step back. I mean, I'm usually sarcastic. When I get to my peak, I usually turn to sarcasm because to me it's my way of not screaming at people. I scream at home, but not my family. I mean, I scream like in my room to myself, like, oh, I've had it. But I usually use sarcasm, and I was really on the phone going, I'm not peopling anymore. I'm not peopling. And the thing is that where sometimes we flub up is we believe that because we live a certain way, feel a certain way, or have a certain belief, that everybody does.
Yeah.
And
how dare you? Yeah.
That's not true. Yeah. So to me, the acceptance is realizing, okay, I realize these people are having a bad day. I realize they're angry. They're being treated. I get all that stuff.
Right.
But then there has to come to the point where I know myself well enough to say, ooh, if you still want to be someone you're proud of, it's time to shut down.
Well, and that's so when I was a kid, And I think I've pretty much lived listening, from the heart. That's just the way I was raised, right? And so if I was having one of those days, as a kid, my best friend was my basketball. So I would go out in the driveway and just shoot baskets.
Like in that Tom Hanks movie?
Yeah, just shoot baskets. Yeah, Wilson. Shoot baskets for hours, because that was where I could listen, and that's where I felt rejuvenated. That's where I felt vitalized. Now, as an adult, I find that some people call it retail therapy, but it's interesting, right? Because when I'm having one of those days, I'm a shoe fanatic. I love sneakers. I love boots. I just love shoes. I go shoe shopping. I don't buy. I just go and look at new shoes, smell new shoes. They make me...
You look like the creepy guy in the shoe store
Right.
sometimes.
Hey, no, right? But I tend, when I'm having those days, and you said you go and you went and just was like, whew,
Right.
So I don't know if you have a place that you do that or whatever. No, I never buy anything, and that makes me feel good too, because, you see so many people, impulse buyers, like, oh, I'm feeling bad, so I went out and bought a new Lexus.
Right.
It's like all these Christmas commercials right now. Hey,
I'm working on that. I usually go buy a pie.
There, right?
We're working on that.
But I think when you live from the heart, is there that place? Do you have to find that place that just, how do you know what that place is, and it's not just impulse, or you know what I'm saying?
The first step is to be aware of who you are, be aware of what your reality is.
Yeah.
And even the harder first step is allowing yourself to see the truth of what that is. Because sometimes we have been trained, conditioned, whatever words you want to use for it, that certain thoughts and certain feelings aren't right.
Right.
That we're selfish, that we're... allow yourself to say, what do I really feel? Sometimes that's going to be anger. And then we instantly go, oh, I must be a bad person. I'm feeling anger. No, anger is the top layer. Look at the anger.
Yeah.
Why do I feel anger? Where is my anger coming from?
Why are these idiots pissing me off?
Right.
Yeah.
What are they triggering? Because even when I yell, I'm not peopling anymore. I do, when I quiet down, I go, okay, what was triggered? What absorbed? What did you believe? What did you feel offended by? Whatever. I just start kind of rounding up the questions. What did that feel like? To figure it out. Now, does that mean that there won't be times that you see people being assholes? No, you absolutely will. There's a difference between recognizing a situation and recognizing someone's behavior and allowing it to absorb it and being triggered by it.
Yeah. Eric Bam, good morning, says, good morning, Lisa, and the Cult Jam.
Good morning. So there's a difference too, and it's learning to decipher those things, because it's not a one trick pony. It's all aspects of it, and knowing who that is and knowing how you feel. Because oftentimes I'll say, and I've learned to say something different. And actually, Dr. K is going to be coming on, and I said this. I learned a long time ago to start saying, "What does that make you feel?"
Yeah.
Not how does that make you feel? Because
like
what does that make you feel presents the physical sensation in your body versus the thought process. When we say, how does that make us feel? We start to instantly go to our emotions. But if we can say, what does that make us feel? We're going to a sensation. And the sensations in your body and your body's responses tell you the difference.
Yeah.
And tell you where those are. What feels good? What doesn't? What feels awkward? What feels anxious?
It's very interesting, because anger doesn't happen. We choose, right? So that made me feel angry.
Well,
right? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's body-wise. What
Okay.
does it make me feel? Does it make my stomach tighten?
Okay.
Does it make my fists clench? Does it make my jaw
Right.
go? What does that make me feel?
Okay.
Because when we can recognize our physical response, our physical response is what we're genuinely running from. We're not running from what happened. We're not running from what the person did. We're running from what it made us feel. And the sensation that we actually make us feel, we've attached it to an emotion, but that emotion has triggered a physical response in the body. And the physical response in the body is where the discomfort is. So what does that make us feel? And by being able to recognize those things, we become more familiar with who we are. And anger can just happen. Anger can just happen. Is Eric being a smartass?
Yeah, he says, why do I hear Pete in my mind making a comment about a sensation in your body?
Because you're talking to a medium who says he probably is.
That's right.
Because it's probably real.
And he says, love the scarf. It is really
Thank you. I just found it
nice.
in my closet when I cleaned out my closet yesterday. And I don't usually wear scarves because I don't like the chin thing. I don't like my
The family, the Asian family
yeah, I
that
don't like
lives
to
with
bring
you.
my friends. And so I don't usually wear things that'll pull attention up to here. But I found this one. I'm like, oh, look at it. It hangs down like a necklace. We're good. So thank you. But again, we're running from what it makes us feel.
Sure.
Because it's causing a physical response in the body. And anger can just happen. When something is triggered, that's very intense. Accept the anger. We tend to go, oh my God, I'm angry. I must be a bad person. Oh my God, that must be true. Oh my God, I have to attack. I have to deflect. I have to just go, oh my gosh, that makes me so angry. Why does that make me angry? Yeah. And just trust the first thing. Your body, your mind will tell you once you give it permission to. Yeah. And you're not going to instantly use it as a punching bag to knock it away. Why does it make me angry? Anger is topped off, the cap of, the height of, the volcano about to erupt of hurt and fear.
Yeah. Because my personality is, is fight, not flight. I mean, if somebody pisses me off, let's go.
I'm told I'm that way. I'm trying to be better about that as
Right.
I age and get more open and noticing. But I was just, my mom and I just had this conversation the other day too. I have a very long fuse now, where when I was younger, I did not. But I wasn't a physical attacker.
Right.
But
No,
I've
that's me. I'll
always been
stand
a
and
very
argue with
verbal
you.
person.
Yeah.
And my ex used to scream at me and go, my brain does not work as fast as your mouth, and I'm not having this conversation with you. And he'd walk away. Because I have always been able to make my brain and my mouth work together in a way that's very difficult to argue. Now, as I'm getting older, I tend to realize that that's a defense mechanism because somebody's about to make me feel uncomfortable. Now I'm going to make them uncomfortable, making me feel uncomfortable. I'm going to challenge them to where it's sleety now.
Yeah, wow. That's great.
I'm going to challenge them to where they're now going to question whether they can do that.
Yeah.
Whether they're going to win that fight. And now I found my fuse is longer because I realize people are only puking their own garbage onto me. And my response is my choice.
Yeah.
If I react that way, that's truly a reaction. A reaction is the instantaneous momentum of exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
The response is the self-understanding and making the choice of how you choose to respond to something. And a response isn't always possible. Sometimes we react in a way. But when anger is there, it's protecting your hurt and fear that you've buried. You don't want anybody to see.
Gotcha.
Because that creates a vulnerability. So anger can just happen if somebody's hitting really hard and might break through. And what was that? Pete! I swear to God.
I don't know what that was.
It was like a cartoony thing. Did anybody hear that on the air? Type in if you heard that.
Yeah, if you heard, it sounded like a harp or something.
Yeah, like a weird, almost like a cartoony kind of thing.
What?
That was bizarre. That really just happened.
I have never heard that before in studio. I'm like, what was that?
See if the listeners heard that, because that was really weird.
Oh, yes, Julie heard it. Eric heard it, yes.
See, Pete.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
All right, bud, we haven't forgotten you. You're here.
That's freaking fantastic.
He's mad you're cleaning up his shit.
And it didn't come from it didn't come from a direction.
No, it was just...
It's not like a phone in a purse or anything. It just was...
No, it just happened.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
It happened. But if somebody's hitting on it hard enough that it could reach what you're protecting, which is fear and hurt, anger will just happen because it's a self-protective mechanism. I don't want somebody to go there. I don't want somebody to touch my vulnerability.
It's the key idea of the day. Brought to you. That was probably him going, aha, you've told me that before. Now I see it.
Yeah, now he can see it from the different place.
That is fantastic.
And he probably doesn't like us talking about vulnerability either, because he would have been the one going, no.
It's an organ.
Yeah, your heart is an organ. Yeah. Oh, see, is this your argument back because you can't be here to say that?
Right.
I'm just gonna mess with them.
Yeah.
Because that's what Pete. For those of you who wonder what we're talking about, when Pete and I would have to get into this conversation, and Pete was here, he would say, "Your heart is just an organ," and I prove it all the time by telling people. But when you're hurt, or when you're happy, Or when you feel love, true love, when you feel love for somebody,
Yeah.
do you not feel a physical sensation in your heart?
Yeah.
I mean, it's in your chest. You get that tingle. You get that,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. Or when you're super stressed, you get the squeeze, you know, that feeling. So it's all those electromagnetic impulses that are telling your brain and your body how to respond. And so your body will respond in the way that it learned to respond that was protective, or that it learned to respond in the moment that whatever happened, the moment you made the decision about something. So anger can just happen if somebody hits it hard enough,
Sure.
hits a spot hard enough, and they're going to go, in the past I've learned that if I blow up right now, it doesn't have to be a conscious decision. In the past, when I've blown up, it has deflected people away from this topic.
Yeah, well, and because I've done a fair amount of reading on self-help stuff, right? I've got a huge library, and more than once I've read that anger is a not a reaction, but we choose to be angry about something.
Right.
That's why I brought that up.
But
say it doesn't just happen. That's how we choose to react to something.
Right, but do we choose it consciously is not always the case.
Okay.
So unconsciously you can choose it. If, for example, let's go into alcoholic recovery, because that's one of my heart-based things. Okay.
Yeah.
So, somebody who's in recovery, they tend, when they go into recovery, to go into kind of a deeper place.
Yeah.
Because now they know they have to do this. It's going to be contemplating, and they're trying to open up. Okay, they're really trying. If you talk to anybody who's in recovery, they're desperately defensive because they're scared, but they're also desperately trying to open up because they don't want to feel like they felt anymore.
Okay.
But as they're down their road, if there's wounds, issues, hurts that are very intense that they've protected for all these years, if somebody goes to touch them and that's too scary, unconsciously in the past, being aggressive has made someone back down.
Okay.
So unconsciously, when the fear, the fear comes up, your brain will go to, what protects me from this feeling? What protects me? Fight or flight. In the past, this has protected me. I'm going to go to that go-to.
Gotcha.
So they'll just react. But they're not reacting consciously saying, I'm going to pop Kent in the face for saying that. Right. There are people who are like that just choose to be that way. But there's sometimes, and more often than not, that it's an unconscious response that their brain goes to because in the past that's what's protected them from that.
So at that moment, are we not living from the heart?
No. We're living from fight or flight.
Okay.
Because that's what's protected. We're protecting the heart. We're guarding the heart. We're putting that ball around it because that's a vulnerable spot we're not willing to express. Now, in that argument I have with certain psychologists and things is, well, but that's just who they are. I completely and utterly disagree with that. Because to say that that's who someone is means that it's an embedded thing they can't control. Mm-hmm. Kind of unconsciously right now, they're not controlling it. But to say they can't control it is untrue. You'd have to say, what were you so afraid of? And you could say it to somebody like me, or you could say it to your best friend, or you could just say it to yourself. You could say it to God. I don't care who the hell you say it to. But bring it up out of your body. Bring it up out into the open. Bring it up out of the physical source. What was I so afraid they would touch on? And explore it. Just explore it. And once you've done that and you see what it is, you get to make now the conscious decision of, is this something that is really, I need to protect this much? Is my reaction bringing good to me? Is my reaction really protecting me? Or is my reaction bringing more of what I used to have that I didn't want? And those are all going to be different answers all the time. Everything's different. There's some people that say, well, I do this or that. I had somebody in my office that said, well, I kind of have OCD of my lawn. I said, okay. I'm like, well, what does that mean?
My lawn.
Explain it to me. Well, if I can't see the rose, like I stand and look at it, I'm very satisfied by the rose. Like the lawn, rose.
Good lawn. Oh yeah.
And the perfection of it. And I actually stand on my porch for like an hour after I mow my lawn, very proud. And I said, okay. And he goes, well, I should probably do something about that. I said, you should? And he said, well, that's kind of like an OCD thing, is it? I said, well, yeah, come to my house and have it, because
right. I don't know. Let me observe that. Yeah.
But that's obsessive. I said, see, now that's where a lot of the muck gets put in there. I said, okay, does it affect your life in a negative way? Does it affect the people you love in your life in a negative way? Does it bring negative impact to your world? Well, no. Then you choose.
Right.
Choose. Why does it bother you? Well, because I think it's weird. Well, I got a whole lot of things I think about me that are weird. You want to go over them?
Right.
Is it something you want to put work into or not? But it's that weird, like, well, people determine that OCD is something bad. So now anything that's a really strong draw, you must be obsessive compulsive. Okay, well, here's the big breaking news. We're all obsessive compulsive about something.
Always.
We all have our things. The only way to kind of see that and to be true to who you are is this something that hurts me? Is this something that I need to change? Is this something that hurts the people around me? Does this affect my life in a negative way? If it doesn't, who gives a shit? And if you really want to put work into it, that's fine. But you don't have to. But we've let the outside world say, this is weird. Why is it weird?
Right, but if you're living, if you're living from the heart, and again, if we say that that's listening to what makes you feel good, vitalized, energized, that's living. I mean, if you're,
Right.
I do a lot of woodworking, and Alice and I love to do DIY with upcycled material and stuff. Right, we like grabbing something and refinishing it. That's
Kind of like dating at this age.
yeah, exactly.
Polishing it up, trying to make it look better.
That's right.
Look like something different.
That's right. But
Sorry.
a lot of times, I look at what we've done, and I'll just stare at it too. And go, man, that's awesome, and but that's living from the heart because that makes me feel good,
Right,
And
and
I
it
know
brings
that
a
it
sense
makes
of
me
pride.
feel good, yeah, because it makes my wife feel good. People who come into our house go, wow, you guys did this. This is amazing, So
And it's a sense of pride.
yeah.
And it put out a physical energy that was better. And when you
Eric,
look at
Eric
it, here's
bedazzling his pants.
right there. Hey, if whatever floats your
Right.
boat. And the thing is that people don't understand that energy also gets instilled. So if you guys are doing that project and you're doing it together, that's a bond.
Yeah.
Right. You're married, and there's love, and you're enjoying time
There's a lot
together.
of arguments too. Trust me.
But that's still, you know what? That's actually still a form of bonding. If it's toxic abuse is different, but an argument
Right.
during that thing, it's still a form of bonding and learning to understand the other person, and it's a way of learning, give and take.
Yeah.
So arguments to me, this whole belief that we're not supposed to argue, BS. How do you know anybody deeper than when they'll tell you
Right.
the truth, and when do you tell your true truth?
Right.
When you're pissed off, right? I mean, really, the real comes out, and so. You're instilling all that, so then you're placing it into this object, and then you have this object in your home. So what did you? Every time you see it, unconsciously there's recall.
Yeah.
Sometimes consciously, unconsciously there's recall, and when you have that unconscious recall, you remember the pride you felt in doing that, the love you felt when you did that,
Yeah.
the fact that you did that with your wife, and that was time that you enjoyed. And what does it bring? Those memories,
Yeah.
which had a physical good feeling.
Right.
Right. Because if I just said, look at that, and then feel good,
Yeah.
you don't have an experience with that can, so it doesn't trigger,
Yeah.
right? But if you look at that dresser that you redid that you really had fun doing, it triggers that memory, which your brain then says, this is what we felt like
Right.
when we did that. So the physical sensation comes up in the body, and you feel good again.
Yeah.
So when you fill your house with things like that, you fill your house with all the energy of those things because our mind remembers it. We may not recall things consciously, but our unconscious mind remembers every second.
Yeah.
And there's sadly, and I do say this genuinely, sadly, there are people who can recall every moment of their life. And I've heard people say, that'd be cool. No, I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be. I think there's a reason we forget. But the energy of that. So that is the balance of the same thing about anger.
Yeah.
When we recall, I don't want to go there. This is what I've learned in the past that protected that. It's an instantaneous response. The same way now you'll probably start paying attention as you walk through the house. When you see certain things, little thoughts and memories pop up. Sometimes they're quick, but your body responds as it did in that time. So then you get that good feeling, happier feeling.
Of course, you're listening to 216 The Net, and this is Lisa's Changing Perceptions, brought to you through the financial support of our good friends at Natural Therapy Wellness Center. Check them out at www.mchenrymassage.com or 815-385-8190.
Look at you go. That was very
Always just taking care of business.
Hey, you got to. So the heart would be something we protect. And my friend Kelly, I don't know if she's listening today or not. Sadly, she has sick people in her house.
Oh, no.
She was asking about this because I'll put it out there. I have had some self-reflective moments these last few weeks for a situation that's been in my life for a long time. And I sat and went, okay, what made you accept that situation for so long? What made you do that? Because here's the truth, people. We can blame everything we went to on other people. We accept what we accept. And there's a reason we accept it. And until we look at the reason that we accept it, we will always continue to accept it. Or have to consciously battle it. So I went in to my dark place, and said, what made you accept it? And it's funny, and I'm not going to get into a great big detail because we don't have as much time left, but I had realized that when I started on this journey for what I do now, I had done it out of a genuine love for a family that was really having a mess of a time. And I didn't see anything helping. I did all the standard things. Anyway, through the progression over years of this, and it was toxic turmoil, and I had dove in. I dove into the toxic swamp. And I don't regret it. People say all the time, do you regret it? No. But it broke my heart a million times, a million different areas, a million different reasons. And every time it shattered, my heart got bigger because I had more understanding. And with more understanding came more compassion. So anyway, so I've kind of stepped away from this situation because the other players in the game don't want to play. They want to sit on the sidelines and watch me work real hard. So I've stepped away. Like, okay, you can't do that anymore because I'm drained. So I went, okay, what made you stay that long? What made you do it? I don't regret that I did it, but I also don't want to repeat my cycle.
Right.
Okay, because I had repeated the cycle. I call it jumping back on the hamster wheel. You exhaust yourself and get nowhere, but you keep jumping on because you think something's going to be different this time, right? So I realized there was a part of me, because before that situation happened, I was pretty guarded. I don't want to say I was mean, but I was pretty guarded. It was pretty tough to get in. I was on the defense a lot. And between my husband passing away and then this situation happening, I had really become so shattered so many times. And I do say that when our heart breaks, it leaves expansion room. It's not so soft.
No, I like that.
Room. Mm-hmm. So I had become this softer, more compassionate person, and I was seeing and feeling spirit and people and life and these things so differently. So when I stepped away from this situation, I kind of had, I speak to spirit, but it's whoever you choose to talk to. And I realized there was a little part of me that believed that if I wasn't in toxic turmoil, I would become hardened again. I would no longer be compassionate and kind. And the response that I got in this conversation, and yes, I really do have these conversations back and forth. Ken knows what I'm talking about, where you actually have the conversation back and forth. And it said, no, it was always there.
Right.
This situation broke you open to allow in. But you were that person before, so you won't go back. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it was always there. The heart was always there. It was just so hardened and guarded that it didn't let anything in. So when it broke, it allowed space for things to seep in. So it's reassuring me that it wasn't. But people say, well, that's ridiculous. Why would you think that?
Yeah.
I didn't consciously think that. But I was repeating a cycle out of panic and fear, because I would actually feel anxiety and panic if I didn't go back into the toxicity. If I don't go back into this, I have to, I crave it, I have to. And I didn't understand it. But it's a true reaction. I wasn't consciously going, well, you'll be mean if you don't do this. That was not the case at all. It wasn't until I stepped back and went, okay, wait a minute. This isn't the life I want to live anymore. Why do I keep diving back in? Why am I doing this? And then I had to allow myself to be real about it. And when that first came up, I thought, well, that's not even realistic. Well, to a part of me it was, and that's when you kind of start swimming around in it, and looking at it. But I realized, no, it's not. I'm not going to go back to being who I was before all of this, because that person's not that person anymore, and that's where the growth is. And so I wanted to go deeper, because although I was growing and I was learning, and a lot of positivity came out of it. And so I had said, okay, Spirit, but if it wasn't for this situation, I wouldn't be who I am. And this was their response. Really? Or was it your inspiration? Because if you hadn't been the person with the heart to see the situation differently, and you hadn't been the person with the heart that could love the situation that most wouldn't, and you hadn't had the drive and the desire to go back to school, and you hadn't gone searching, and you hadn't do that was you who was the person who did all those things. So how can you not be that person, because you always were? This situation, although most looked at it as negative, was your inspiration for the next level of you to move forward. And it was interesting because it was an unconscious fear that I didn't know was there. And until it came up and I went, oh, that's the little girl in me who never thought she was good enough. And the harder she works and the more she pleases, that, you know what I mean? The more she pleases, then eventually she'll be good enough. And you're on this roller coaster search. And it realized how much. And then it attaches to all these different things in your life that you realize. And once you pull it up and you see it for what it is, and you realize, oh, I see. I can even feel where that came from. I understand where it came from. Then we've seen it, and it's no longer the unconscious thing driving your life.
So, and a question came in, and this may be, we don't have enough time probably this week. This may be something for next week. But how do you move from living from your mind to living from your heart?
By addressing each individual thing that pops up. What, I guess my turnaround question would be from that is, what makes you feel you are living from your mind and not your heart?
Well, I think, I think as we take a look at today's society, right? More people are angry. More people aren't in that. They're looking for a battle, right? There's more hate. There's more yuck out there. Headbutting. I go on to social media, let's say, just to start irritating people. So if you're living from your heart, we've kind of said that that's your good place. The energy, the vital, it's good. You're listening, right? But I think the world has gone from that to saying, wait a minute, you know what?
Well, I think that society almost is out there angry because anger is the only safe thing they have right now.
Sure.
Look at society, and this is going to piss people off, but I guess it won't be the first time. So look at society. We're in a society where we have social media that says I have to make my family look a certain way and my house look a certain way. And I even have to fix up my pictures so that they look a certain way, because I wouldn't want my true self to be seen. And we have all these things we have to appear a certain way. And then we can do that behind our screen, right? That's easy, right? But when you're out in public and you're out with people, you have still all those insecurities. And I defy any of you to say you don't, because if you're on freaking social media lying about your relationship, lying about your house, lying about your job, then you do have insecurities, okay? So, and it's natural. So it's not even a criticism. We all have our level of insecurities. But then you go out into the world and you don't have the filter for the camera and you don't have all these things, right? And now we're in a society where if you use the wrong term that they've determined is the right thing this week, and you didn't get the memo, you're some kind of a racist or an asshole or a what, you all these things all of a sudden you become. And you can say the wrong word or wear the wrong thing or order the wrong thing or use the wrong term or whatever it is, because our society has gone friggin' crazy, and everybody feels that the way they see it and the way they feel is the only way. So if you're going out into the world trying to just be who you are, but you didn't get every memo of this week's changes, you're going to be attacked.
Right.
So what's the safest thing to do? Be angry so nobody approaches
Live from
you.
your mind, yeah.
And that way, if you're angry and nobody approaches you, you don't have to risk all of that.
Yeah.
You don't have to risk being called out. You don't have to risk making a mistake. You don't have to risk being seen for the truth. I just had a friend of mine who I will tell you, this is an example of it. And if it offends somebody, I apologize that you feel offended, but I'm going to tell you to look at why you're offended, not look at what I said,
Yeah.
because this is the truth. I have a friend that is one of the most gentle, loving people who gives so much of themselves to a fault. To a fault. I've said you're too much of a giver. We need to dig in and see where that comes from too. But they're truly a gentle person who really wants to make a difference in society. And they used the wrong term for a nationality. It was not an offensive one. It's just one that was like last week.
Yeah.
Okay. And they were actually called in for a formal reprimand at their work.
Wow.
And I thought, you must be kidding. And I said, tell me what you said. And she just said the word. And I said, no. Tell me what you said. I want to know the statement. I want to know the
Right.
context of
Right.
what you said. What she said, there was absolutely nothing wrong with. She
Right.
just didn't use the term of this week that they've decided is the term. And she actually got a formal reprimand at work for it. And so the reason I say that is because her intent was good. Her heart was good. She just didn't get the memo of this week's decision as to what's okay, right? And so putting that into why is everybody out angry in society? Because talk about people not being able to feel good enough or right. It is absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely 100% freaking possible right now to be good enough in our society. An aspect of you, an aspect of your belief, an aspect of your history, an aspect of your past, an aspect of your view, an aspect of something is going to be friggin' wrong. It's just the way it is.
Unless it's here on 21.6 The Net. And it's wrong in somebody else's eyes or point of view or whatever, right? Not necessarily to your truth.
Correct.
Right.
But that's my point with the social media thing and
Yeah.
stuff. How many of us really know what our own truth is?
I don't think any. I would say a very, very low percent.
Right. If any of us can, 100%.
Right.
I mean, think about it. Even I, after doing this now for years, and I do a lot of reflective work, and I didn't even know until I stepped out of a situation that I had repeated for 8 years, and went, wait a minute. And Pete and I did a show once called The Tipping of the Scales. What happens is that there has to come a point where living the way and feeling the way you're feeling for the rest of your life becomes more scary than the unknown of what you might see if you change.
Well,
And that scale has to change. And it's a stages thing. It's a stages thing. I have a relative who's going through some trauma right now. A major
Sure.
life-changing events are happening. And they said, oh, I'm entering my 2.0 stage. And they were very proud that they were.
Yeah.
I said, great. When you get to like 6.0, you'll really start to figure it out.
yeah.
And they're, what?
Yeah.
Nothing happens in an instant. It's a stage. It's a process.
So, here's back in the day, right, when we were growing up, back in the 1900s.
When we would ride our dinosaur to school.
So quick shout out to my mom. Happy birthday, 80 years old today.
Oh, happy birthday,
yeah,
Mom.
Absolutely love her. But I'm just thinking about when you're saying this, that growing up in the 1900s, your grandparents had wisdom. They didn't change. They didn't have a microwave. They rolled their own cigarettes. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There was they knew their truth, if that's a good way to put it, right? Hey, here's who we are. This is how we live. It is what it is.
Right.
I remember, going to, Alice's grandparents' house, and the upstairs didn't have any heat because the house wasn't built that way.
Right.
So you were like, you wake up with frostbite on your nose in the winter, right? And you're like, geez, this is ridiculous. How can they not just run a thing right up? This is who they are. But they never tried to change to society. They did, they went with a gas car or things like that.
Right.
My grandmother passed away in 2020 at 102 years old, and I just kind of go back and think about, man, look at all the changes that she's seen. Right now, my mom and dad, they know how to text, they know how to, YouTube. You know what I'm saying?
Do you want to know what the big difference is between that generation and us?
Yeah.
They knew the value of their four walls.
Yeah.
They knew the priority of their four walls. And in truth, as much as technology has helped us, it has also hindered us.
Sure.
Because where you, or they, I guess, would be in their own four walls with their family, and that's what they could see, that's what was in their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Okay? So it was them and their neighbors.
Yeah.
People used to neighbor, right?
Yeah.
Because that was your world. That was your world. That was your priorities, your values, your integrity. But now with technology, as much as it has helped us, what is our world?
Yeah, the
It's
world.
Right. So now versus fitting into your environment, okay? And back then, truthfully, your four walls was a pretty damn big priority.
Sure.
And back then, things like marriage and sex and that was a commitment.
Yeah.
That was a true commitment. That wasn't the, hey, I met this chick and I married her the next week. Isn't that funny?
Right.
That you didn't do that.
Right.
You committed. And fidelity was important. And, you made your home base your world.
Yeah.
And then you spread out, but you only spread out a little bit.
Right.
So you fit into your world. And now our world is the world.
Yeah.
And in the world, there are many different types of people. And so because, my opinion, because now we don't have a home base to set our values in. We don't have a home base to see our examples in. We don't have a home base to see what we feel like in.
Yeah.
Now you may be in your home base and realize at some point, I feel like there's something more. And then go venture out. But that's a choice and discovery. Now we live in a society that says you don't have a choice in discovery. I'm going to beat your discovery into your head because it's my perspective of what it should be.
Right.
And so it's causing so much angst and turmoil and fear. And when we have angst and turmoil and fear, if something's happening in your life and it's causing you to have angst and turmoil and fear, right? Because sometimes that can happen. Even though we're very faithful people and we do know it'll work out okay, when things pile up, there's our moments of, right. Yeah. Are you the first person? Are you waiting for somebody to hug you? Are you waiting for deep conversation? No, you're reactive.
Right.
Because your body is filled with all of these things. So you're reactive. So if people are venturing out and they've hidden in their society world, okay, for us old people, I just found out Facebook's old, okay, for old people now. So for us old people who still book a face, right, there are many people who who go on there and they live the world of the cleavers.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then you know them personally and you're going, well, that's horseshit.
Yeah.
That's not your life at
They're
all.
the Haskells.
But they're allowed to create that delusion or illusion, whichever you want to do, and it's a persona. But out in the society, out with people, you're exposed.
Yeah. And
you're exposed now, not to where you had your home base back then, and then your neighbor says, hey, why are you being a jerk? Why do you mow your lawn? You know what I mean? It's just your little home. You're not going to really get offended by it. Oh, I guess I should. You're just going to that's your world.
Yeah.
Now you're out there exposed to all these different people with all these different opinions and what if they see the truth? And what if they see that I did this? And what are you filled with? Angst and fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how do you deflect someone when you feel challenged? When you feel a threat, because that can be a threat. If your insides are feeling, this is your protective place, and you feel a threat to your life or your belief or the picture that you've painted, how are you going to react? We become angry. If you're in fight or flight, okay, and your object is to fight because you can't leave for your situation. When you're out in society, you're out in society, right? Unless you go home and hermit up. This is the way it is. So you go to fight mechanism. I'm going to be defensive. I'm going to be fight because you want to make people challenge you. I was talking to somebody who had become sober, and they, big person, and they had gotten in a calm and friendly conversation went, don't you push me. And I said, ooh, that was really scary. Did it work in the bar? Ugh! And they walked away. But then they came back. Looking, you mad? expecting me to be mad because in the past people would be angry
Sure.
that they were a jerk. And I said, no. Obviously, we were hitting on something incredibly uncomfortable, and in the past, that worked for you.
Yeah.
You deflected people away from you. Probably didn't get many fights. Who's going to challenge that? That's what people are going out in society doing right now.
Sure.
If I keep up this argument, if I tell people how they're wrong, if I challenge them first, no one will challenge me, because if they challenge me, bless you, I may need to cease. Bless you. You are the most silent sneezer. See, I had to blew the microphone over.
It's a sneeze button.
If they challenge you, they might see something that you don't want seen.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what society is. Now people say, how can you react to that? Or respond to that? What would your response to be? To not respond.
Yeah.
Don't respond. Understanding that people right now in society are afraid. They're afraid what is happening with the Rona, what is happening with finance, what is happening with shipping. Am I going to have things I need this winter? Am I going to be able to get what I need? What are my children going to grow up to? Do you know how many people in our age group I've heard say the words, had I known, I've said them, I will say, had I known that things were going to look like this right now, I don't know if I would have chosen children.
No, I've never said that.
To put them out in the world.
Never said
I've said it when I've gotten fearful. When I've said it fearful. I don't mean it all the time, but I have said it in moments of fear. I wouldn't have put my children into this world. So, and that's a true thing for a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
And I know people in our children's age brackets deciding whether they want to make that decision.
Yeah.
So, in that aspect, think of all the fear that's out there.
Yeah.
Don't respond. Understand that people are afraid right now. And you know what? They may not be afraid of the same thing that you are, but there's so many things out there right now. Just about everybody's getting hit with something.
Sure.
And just don't respond. Understand that that's somebody in fear. And you know what? If you're the type of person that grabs the door for somebody and says hello, do it even if they're nasty.
Right.
Because here's a key to discovering who you are. I'm not going to do that because they won't appreciate it. Well, did you do it to be appreciated, or did you do it because that's just what you would do?
Right.
That's when you start seeing, why do we do something? Why would I do that if I'm not going to get something out of it? That's okay.
Yeah.
There are times that we should do something but be aware that that's what you're doing. So I hear a lot of people who say, well, I did all these noble things. Or the people who have to put up the neon sign that they did the noble thing.
Yep.
That's fine, but be aware that you didn't do it to be
Morning,
kind.
Shana.
You did it to have people think you were.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
Living from the heart would mean you do it because you are kind.
Yeah.
You don't need to make a public service announcement about you.
Oh, yeah.
Just who you are gives off that essence and
Well,
that,
right, and that's
that warmth.
and especially this time of year. If
Right.
you want to know if you live from the heart or not, give somebody a gift,
That you know can't give you one or won't.
or just give some. If you give somebody a gift and you expect them to give you a gift in return, you're not living from the heart.
Right. That's what I
Right?
mean, but that you know can't or won't give you one back. Why are you giving it to them?
Right.
You know? Or,
That's
this
why I
is
hate
even
Christmas,
worse.
but-
When you buy a Christmas gift, consciously ask yourself, why am I choosing this?
Yeah.
And right or wrong, you'll figure out your own stuff. Everybody's is different. Because sometimes you'll hear, because it's super expensive and I'm going to be the one who gives the best thing.
Yeah.
Or, well, I know this means a lot to them. And, you know, I remember when they said XYZ, so this would be sentimental. And I want to feel that sentiment. Or,
My
you know,
dad,
find your niche and ask yourself why you're getting each thing, and you'll start to discover things about yourself.
When I was young, and we were, you'd split up and you go out and with the kids or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember, shopping for my brothers or whatever, and I didn't know what to, what do they want? I don't know. And my dad always told me, he goes, when you give a gift, you give a gift that you'd like to get.
But what if somebody doesn't have your taste?
Doesn't matter. And then they can give it back to me, and I'm happy, right?
So give a gift, you're going to get returned.
Right. So the idea is, right, the idea behind that is if you give then the thought doesn't go towards that, right? The thought doesn't go towards, I want to be the best or I want to give them the best. It's like, what gift would I like to get?
See, and I look at it as what gift would they like to receive, and sometimes even what gift would they not get for themselves? What would they enjoy but wouldn't do for themselves? Because for me, it's a matter of, and it depends on how close your circle is. I'm talking about your very tight circle. Showing them that you truly understand and appreciate who they genuinely are, and you know what they appreciate.
I know we're running on the backside of things right now, but just wanted to, Wendy says, loved Elisa and Kent because they enhanced Peter's life. Wendy, if you need anything from either one of us or the station, you just let us know. We're here for you. We absolutely love you.
Absolutely. And I told you when to give me a call anytime you need to talk or vent or whatever.
Our heart bleeds daily. So people aren't always welcoming to a pure heart. I don't think it's a familiar situation, as many see love itself as transactional, is what Shayna says. So it's true.
Because to actually allow it is to be vulnerable, and people are afraid of that. We'll talk about vulnerability next week with Julie.
That's right. Awesome. All right. Thanks for getting caught in the net this morning. Stick around right now. Right on our heels is Fellowship of Faith Worship Hour, then followed up by Metaphysical Meanderings with Lana Duncan Hartgraves. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a fantastic, fantastic Sunday.